And guys, we are live once again. But, we're here. Welcome to our anniversary show. Guys, Christy, it's been 2 years. Two. Look at the two.
I put out a 2. I got lots of stuff with 2s on it. So year 3 is going to be a whole different ball game.
Hey, we'll find the Pierre something. So, yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah. Welcome
So
back.
hooray for us. I thought you said somebody was making us cookies or
Yeah, that fell through.
That fell through, so I don't get shit?
No.
Just a cigar.
Yep. You'll like it. Guys, just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us ramble on a weekly basis. And it's our anniversary show. I wore my Tomo Rutu in honor. We'll get to them in a minute.
I wore all my Hockey Fights Cancer stuff, so I don't know what that means, but sorry.
Hey, at least you're matching.
I was caddying today.
How was that?
It was okay. Madison, she played a really good round.
Good. So good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we get into it for our anniversary?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Let's get into it.
All right, guys. We are down to the final matchup of the Stanley Cup playoffs. And once again, it is a rematch. We've already had game 1. I did not like the outcome. Shocker, as I'm wearing a Tomo Rutu shirt. But I also wasn't surprised because it's game 1 in Edmonton. And I could easily have seen that going Edmonton's way. I still believe Cats in 6. Absolutely. But yeah, Christy, what do you think? What do you think of the rematch?
Well, at the end of the day, it's the 2 best teams, right? So, I mean, everybody's happy about that. As far as me, I'm going the Oil in 6. As far as the matchup, both teams are playing extremely well. Both teams have shown that they can come from behind. The Oil has some injury woes. Zach Hyman will not play for them, and that's a top 6 forward, so that's a little rough sauce. In his place, though, is, that's right, Corey Perry, who took 2 lazy penalties to start last night's game. So, yeah, I mean, it's what everybody wanted to see. They're definitely the 2 best teams in the league. Most people are picking the Oilers. Still a good amount of people picking the Cats. You know, this is all about, Connor McDavid finally getting his cup. He's got that look. Everybody keeps telling me he's got that look.
Or, as many people have been saying, once again, Stan Bowman hitching his name to the coattails of somebody else's team that somebody else built.
Well, yes. And, we stated who would you rather have on the cup? Seth Jones or Stan Bowman.
And they said Seth.
Yeah. And I did. Somebody responded to me on that and said, the heck with that. What's worse, Brad Marchand or Corey Perry? I thought that was pretty genius.
Oh, Corey Perry.
Yes, I definitely don't want Corey Perry, but there's a lot of people that hate Marchand too, just as much. So I've got to figure it at least goes 6.
We've got a happy anniversary in the chat.
I don't see any chat.
But I do.
Oh, I don't get to see the chat. The help doesn't get this. Only the boss gets to see the chat.
Only the boss gets to see the chat. We've got a happy anniversary from Wendy.
Oh,
so thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the happy anniversary. Oh, that's made my day. All right. There's actually somebody watching, so now I don't remember what we were talking about. Oh, game
Blackhawks
one.
versus Corey Perry.
Do you want to segue to game one, or?
We can happily segue into game one, where then we can talk about your future Chicago Blackhawk. That is the wonder of Sam Bennett. Ugh. Guys,
Yeah.
he was great. I mean, he's always great in my books. I'm a big fan of Sam Bennett and Bennett's game, but game one in particular, delightful.
Yeah, Bennett was on display. Edmonton kind of carried play, but was down. Edmonton's a different team. Bob let in one leaky goal from Victor Arvidsson. That kind of a knuckleballer, but that's usually something that Bob stops.
Mm-hmm.
Bennett with 2 unbelievable goals. Again, Edmonton came back down from 3-1 into overtime. Overtime was Florida's way at the first 5 minutes, and then Edmonton carried play for the next 10. The dreaded dog penalty came about. That's delay of game for you people. And it looked like Florida was going to get out of the penalty unscathed, and then with about 20 seconds to go, Edmonton scored. Florida did go away from, they were, most of their penalty kill was a little less aggressive. They became more aggressive on this one. Seth Jones chasing somebody out to around the blue line. Marchand not quite covering back. So a bing bang pass and Draisaitl wide open. And that was that.
Which reminds me, got to play my favorite game with the Florida Panther game.
What's your favorite game?
Oh, he did not have the most amount of minutes.
He did not. He was third in the defensive pair.
Yes.
Still handling.
Locking in 30 minutes and 11 seconds.
Yeah. Seth played real well, except I'm a Seth lover, but questioning why he came so far out. But it seemed like the team all of a sudden became aggressive, and that kind of was that.
Mm-hmm.
Draisaitl, the usual stuff, you give him a little bit of an open net, he's going to nail it. Again, we're repeating this every show, but Stuart Skinner, it easily could have been 5-1. Going into the third, Stuart Skinner kept it close. He played fantastic. Extremely physical the first probably 15 minutes of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was hitting everybody. I would say Edmonton even a little bit more physical. But as everybody knows, the Cats don't shy away from anything. They basically they bottled up McDavid pretty good. They played pretty good defense, the Cats did. Just not quite enough. I have a feeling this is the way it's going to go. Every game is going to be tight.
I mean, that's what last year was pretty much too. I mean, it's the Stanley Cup Finals for a reason. This is not a year where, one side is pretty lopsided. Like I know we've had in past years where it's like maybe the West is really competitive and the East it's kind of a crapshoot. I mean, it'll be tough.
Yes. So, as I said, I've got the Oil in 6. You've got the Cats in 6.
Rucci's going to run it back.
I don't think it matters
Stanley Cup champion
to either of these teams, whether they're playing at home or on the road. I just don't think that matters. Florida's very comfortable with it. And I believe Edmonton is almost as comfortable. Occasionally they can't get the matchups they want. But Edmonton, with getting Ekholm back, is a huge addition. to that defensive core. Say what you want about Stan Bowman, but the acquisition of Wallman is looking very good also. And on the third pair, you have Kleinberg, who's played pretty gosh darn well. So obviously, as much as everybody wants to say Stan didn't do anything, he did a little bit. And always remember, Stan wasn't responsible of signing Skinner or Victor Arvidsson. That was done before he got there. Yes, I will still agree he's kind of latching on, but he's there to make sure that the contract goes smooth for one Evan Bouchard, who could have been
what that means.
Who could have been a Chicago Blackhawk.
Yes, he could have been a Chicago Blackhawk. But the real important question is, would we have kept him in this Kyle Davidson burn it to the ground rebuild?
Well, we would not have, but it might not have been a Kyle Davidson burn it to the ground rebuild if we were able to insert Evan Bouchard at year 2 of him instead of Boquist.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny that now Stan's the one doing Evan Bouchard, who he should have drafted's contract. Either way,
yes, if we get Evan Bouchard, we never get Seth Jones.
You probably don't. I don't know. I mean, that was a terrible maneuver by Stan, but what are you going to do? At the end of the day, we've discussed that trade. It's not like the Hawks lost it. It's not like Columbus won it, because Columbus, at the end of the day, got a fourth-line centerman and a defenseman that they've already traded away just for a second-round pick. So, these things are weird. Okay, we kind of went off base a little bit, didn't we?
The first speed bump of the evening.
That's what Krusty does.
Yeah. Next, we've got a couple of head coaching signings. We've got Sturm for the Boston Bruins, and then Dan Muse for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So 2 jobs that our boy Todd Nelson is not going to get. Guys, I'm getting real scared. I was hoping, but I mean, I do think Sturm is overdue for a shot in the NHL. He was most recently down with Los Angeles' minor league team, the Ottawa Reign. So I'll be excited to see that. And Pittsburgh, I'm going to be honest, I know a little bit about the guy, but not a ton. So sure, let's see what happens. But it's also the Eastern Conference. We barely play them anyway.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know if there's any truth to the rumor that Sid wasn't too happy with the coaching pickup. I can't believe that. I would assume he at least talked to him about it a second.
Right.
But Pittsburgh's in a real weird spot. But if you're going to sign Sid to 2 more years, which is kind of what I'm figuring, or did they already sign him to 2 more years?
Yeah, isn't that the 8.7?
Yeah. So, I mean, that means you're still attempting to win now. So Sid matters. I've got to figure Todd Nelson does not get a sniff this round. There's really no jobs left, right? How many do we got? 2 left?
I think so. Who knows? Maybe he just wants to stay in Hershey. Oh, I think the other rumor that I heard was, I think it was Love or one of the Washington Capitals assistant coaches was in interview rounds in Pittsburgh. So I think it was heavy on the rumor mill that, like, if he went to Pittsburgh, Nelson would come up into the assistant coaching position under Carberry.
Okay. And who are Florida's assistants? I know Tomo Rutu's one.
The Tomo Rutu.
Who's the other guy?
The other former Blackhawk?
Yeah. What is
Gosh,
his
I
name?
really don't know, and I should know at this point because he's been really nice to me. on the verge of tears every time right before Brew 2 comes out, and I don't think he's going to come out, and I just think it's fine. Everything's fine.
Yeah, I forget his name, but he's got to have like 5 or 6 cups.
I believe so.
Sorry, I coughed, but there's another speed bump for you. So everything's basically setting up, so we can move on from the coaching carousel, I would assume.
Well, we've got one more we talked about our coaching setup last week, but we have one of our former coaches, Mr. Kevin Dean. I know a lot of fans were slightly confused and sad to see him go from the Blackhawk bench. He has found employment with the Vancouver Canucks. So he will be an assistant coach over in Canada.
Okay, and who's Vancouver's coach?
That would be... I know...
See? These are questions that I shouldn't be asking. You never ask a question when you're teaching or when you're on a live stream when you do not know the answer. Good thing for Hockey Princess, she has the Google.
I do have the Google. That's your Adam Foote.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Which I'm under the belief, based off of previous interviews that have resurfaced of Quinn Hughes, this was a coaching hire to make your captain happy because you dropped the ball during exit interviews a month ago. I would be shocked if you didn't call Quinn Hughes and say, who would you like? Who would make you happy?
Yes, we must have the same source because, that's the same thing that I heard. This is their last-ditch effort to say, please stay here. Maybe your 2 brothers could come here. How about that? So, Dean will be missed. That's a good, solid coach. As we've stated before, I am on board with this coaching staff, except for the lone holdover, which still churns me because it just wasn't.
You were going to get one.
It just isn't necessary, and it sends off the vibe that somebody has to report back to the general manager. There's a spy in the den. But the other 2 guys, Pekka's going to be fantastic, especially the way he played for his size.
Mm-hmm.
If he can get our kids that are about his size to play the way he did, that'll be a huge win. Very good defensive specialist. And the other guy is just a winner everywhere he's gone. So,
yeah, Vellucci is going to be, I can't wait to see what Vellucci does behind the bench. So that is all with the coaching. Do you have anything else in the NHL world?
I don't believe so. We're all quiet on the Western Front right now, aren't we? I mean, I know
pretty much.
We've got
our big weekend at the end of the month coming up. We got the NHL draft. Christy and I will not be deep diving today, mainly because the Elite Prospects book just came out earlier this week. So to be honest, we haven't had a ton of time to make educated opinions. We have our favorites, but we'll break down potential Blackhawk picks, first round, some of our favorites. Can get everybody on the Porter Martoni train. But that'll come at the end of the month. But yeah. So
I am on as of right now, back on the Porter Martoni train. At the end of the day, it just looks that way. Are we talking a tiny bit of the draft or no?
We can talk a tiny bit. We're not going to super break down everything.
No. So, I'm back on the train for him. I'm not sold that the centerman will be a number 1 centerman. So I think I would like a big power forward who I know probably is going to be a top 6 player. And for everybody all worried that Misa was not invited to dinner with the Blackhawks, okay, cool your jets, okay? If for some reason he is there at number 3, They will pick him, then take him out to dinner, okay? They don't need to take him out. They don't even need to talk to him. Okay? If he is there, that is a slam dunk. They will be taking him. Okay? So don't worry about the dinner plans. I saw that whole whatever world you guys live in, that electronic world flipping out.
I mean, I'm still just on the Porter Martoni train, and I'm looking more towards who they get at 25. Because whoever they get at 3, they're going to be good. It's going to be a solid pick. Granted, we've woofed some number 3 picks in the past. Not a complete woof, but a little woof.
Here a woof, there a woof, everywhere a woof, woof.
Woo, woo.
We'll make that. Oh, sorry. Go on.
But, you know, the guys that are going to potentially be available at number 3, as long as you're not reaching too far down into the first round, there's not a bad pick. I would say, like, the biggest risk would be McQueen, but that's just more injury related. If he pans out, it would work. I mean, there's not really anybody where you're kind of like, oh shit, aside from thinking if McQueen's injury is worse than it is.
Yeah, and I am a hard pass on McQueen just because I understand that everybody thinks our pool is just so unbelievable. At the end of the day, it's not that unbelievable. It's good. But without other pieces, it's still a struggling to get to the playoffs team.
Mm-hmm.
This team cannot afford to miss at number 3. Now, if I've got a big centerman with a bad back and all of a sudden takes a wrong hit next year and I miss on that, they can't afford to miss on it.
No.
So I err on the way of safe. So.
Right. I'm just thinking more in terms of like whoever's there, be it Higgins, be it Misa, be it Martoni. Out of those 3, whoever's there at 3, it's a solid pick.
Yes.
It just is. You go crazy with your Frundell or your Denoye, it's still probably going to be a solid pick.
Right. And if they draft the Hanks kid, the portion of Meathead Nation that is so worried about size is going to have an aneurysm. I'm okay if they have him. I'm a firm believer. I can find size. I'm a firm believer. And you can find Troy Browers. You can find Brian Bickles.
Yeah.
But elite talent is difficult to find. But yes, you're correct. At 3, it's all going to be good.
It's all going to be good.
Sorry, I took a little too long there, but you know.
Well, you know me. I'm always happy to talk about the draft. It's one of my favorite weekends of the year. So, Chris, you got anything else in the NHL world?
I don't believe so.
Right.
I really didn't check.
That's fair. We're going to jump over to the PWHL right now because they're in the midst of their expansion draft. As we talked about last week, all teams had to have their protected list. There were some very predictable ones, like Minnesota protecting Kendall Coyne, Taylor Heisey, and then you've had some unpredictable ones like Hillary Knight and Sarah Nurse not being protected. So, of course, they got scooped up right away. Sarah Nurse is now playing for Vancouver. That was a very, very silly thing on Toronto's part, in my opinion, but I just love Sarah Nurse. So, and then like we said, in a couple of weeks will be the draft. So we'll see kind of how that pans out for the rest of the teams as well.
Where did Hillary go?
Seattle.
So they're kind of trying to spread out the talent throughout all regions of the league, it looks like.
Yeah.
Which, to grow your product is important, especially out west, to have some name recognition of nursing. Well, there's no more bigger name recognition than Hillary Knight. So
right.
And I'm sure you don't know, but I still want to know if my girl is draft eligible or not.
I believe she is.
In the draft, and she's the number 1 pick. Who picks first? Do we know?
We don't know yet. Krusty, stop asking us questions. We will know, and then Krusty will probably get a shirt this year.
It's possible. I'm a big Abby Murphy fan. I just am. That's a local gal who's going to be a force. Okay, sorry.
All right. Jumping to, we really don't have any prospect reports because the Memorial Cup is done. Unless, do you have something?
I don't think I have. We're jumping. I'm jumping.
Oh, we're jumping.
You said we're jumping.
We're gonna jump.
Well, yeah, I could. Could we talk Memorial Cup real quick?
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on the Memorial Cup, Chris?
I don't know. I really didn't watch most of it. But I had a question about how do I say the D guy's name? Desnoyers or Destroyer?
That's just what I'm assuming because he plays for the Q League. So I'm assuming he goes with the French pronunciation.
Okay. I don't know if there's any bit to do about, except for the last game, he had some struggles offensively. And there's always a stigma that goes with the Q of just not quite as talented as the other 2 leagues.
Speak for yourself. Savoie came out of the Q.
I'm just saying, this is what some people say. I'm wondering what you have on any of that. Does it matter to you? No, it doesn't matter. Okay, let's put it to you this way, Hockey Princess. We've got 3 leagues, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that the Q League is the weakest of the 3?
Maybe. They're just all they're just very, very different.
Okay.
To me. I would say maybe, but I also feel like the kids that are in the Q and kids that are in the W get pulled for NCAA a lot more than kids out of the O. So you're working with a different caliber just because a lot of kids that aren't in the OHL, at least the pattern that I've been seeing, are getting pulled down to college.
All right, I'll take that.
I think it's the Q is, I will say, watching the slim amount that I did, just watching Savoie, with exceptions to maybe like a couple of players, the Q is not physical at all. And I know that like the CHL has very harsh rules on the physicality aspect of the game, but there is nothing there in terms of like grit and physicality.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right. Jumping to Rockford, because Rockford has a new coach, guys. Yeah. Well, no, sorry. I thought you were going to have an opinion with your long exhale.
No. I'm waiting for your opinions. You know more on this subject than me.
Well, we've got Mr. Nightingale. I'm not going to lie. When Krusty sent me the text, I thought we had hired the Michigan State Nightingale. So I was very excited because I know he also had interviews for the Blackhawk position. But it is a different Nightingale who was a former Ice Hawk and a former Ice Hawk captain. This is a Rockford guy. Also was previously the ECHL head coach for Washington's ECHL affiliate, the Stingrays. So, if you can't get Todd Nelson, get Washington's ECHL coach. I'm a fan of this. I think getting somebody who's been in Rockford before as a player very much helps him build the team to kind of buy into whatever vision they're wanting to go with. I think you also have a stronger relatability because yes, it's your coach, but your coach is now a guy who was in your position. It's not like you have a coach who's maybe like a first-time coach or really didn't play a ton of hockey, but kind of worked more so like the backside of the sport, this is a guy was in your position. So I think this is honestly a slam dunk by Katie.
I'll agree with that. It's going to be very important, the development in Rockford. It's a fine line down there now of developing players and winning. You can't develop players in a losing atmosphere, if you ask me. The teams that you end up playing against are less than, because they come in with less than efforts. Now, if you're a top 6 team in the AHL, that becomes a whole different ball game, and games are tougher. So I'm hoping they can get to that point and still develop, because we've got some D-men that need some developing. Unsure if they're going to be developing in Rockford or Chicago, but
we don't know. See what our life looks like after free agency.
Yes, we will.
But should be interesting. Like I said, I like it. I think it's a definite difference from, not that I hated what Mark Eaton did last year. I think he was put in a very different situation than what he signed up for. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but he is just essentially going back to his former position, back into player development.
Yes.
So I think he did a great job for the situation that he was in. It was less than ideal. But I think it's going to be a nice added bonus to have a new guy coming in.
Yes. And yeah, culture needs to start to change on both levels now. So
yeah. Right. Jumping to our big team. We've got some news, not necessarily Blackhawk news, but we have some Chicago area outside of the United Center news that Krusty has feelings. I have feelings. And like last week when I was completely wrong on what Krusty's feelings were going to be, I think I'm very head on and with what I think his feelings are going to be this week. So guys, we talked about months ago, I don't know when the actual news came out, about the Wirtz Corporation kind of expanding the area around the United Center for more rinks, venues, grassy areas, everything but parking for your Blackhawk games. Now it's been announced that the Chicago Steel, who formerly played out in Geneva at the Fox Valley Ice Arena, will be moving to Chicago, and they will be playing at one of the new fancy stadiums that they just couldn't give to a PWHL team. But it's fine. I'm not bitter. A lot of people were excited for this. A lot of people were upset. My sympathy and my heart goes out to, Chicago Steel fans that live out in the suburbs. Because yes, technically you can drive down to a game, but that's a big distance from Geneva to Chicago. What is that, an hour and something, Krusty? I don't know. I don't drive.
Oh, yes.
But
that's an hour and a half.
That's a big drive to do. Also, it's that's a commitment sort of thing. Like everything's more expensive down here. Granted, I don't know what the ticket prices are going to look like with the Steel being down in Chicago, but it becomes a significant more of a hassle. I will say somebody did kind of throw an idea or a thought out of, kind of what the fan base here is going to look like for the Chicago Steel in terms of attendance, because folks in Chicago that maybe not necessarily have the financial ability to go to a Blackhawk game, maybe have the opportunity to go to a Steel game for a lower price. I'm very intrigued to see how moving the Steel to Chicago affects the Wolves attendance and their sort of situation, because I think you're in more direct competition with the Wolves than you are with the Blackhawks. One, because the Blackhawks own you, and two, because those teams are both, lower prices. You're able to bring kids. It's significantly more family friendly than going to an NHL game. But once again, my heart goes out to the Steel fans out in the suburbs because it stinks. Another point that was brought up was what's the billet situation going to look like for these kids? For the kids, it's got to be great. You don't have to live in the middle of nowhere anymore. You can live in a city or at least close to a major city, but you have to find an entirely new billet system for this move because there's no way that you're going to live in Geneva and then come down for like every game.
For your listeners who might not know, could you explain what billet means and what the billet situation is?
So billet family is, I'm going to use Sasha for an example, just because out of USHL. So Sasha is originally from Quebec, but played for the Muskegon Lumberjacks prior to being drafted and going to University of North Dakota. So when he was in, because his family can't just up and move from Three River City in Quebec, he moved to Muskegon, Michigan by himself and stayed with a billet family. So it's a family that's able to kind of like house you in the town of the team where you play, or at least relatively close.
Correct. We were fortunate enough to meet Savoie's billet mom.
She's so nice. She's so nice.
At a Rockford game, this would be an interesting show to do. But for those people who aren't completely into the hockey, this is a big thing in the hockey world, where kids, once they're starting to chase their dream, they're gone. They then go someplace else. They'll take classes online and they stay with another family and play with this, what the Steel is a UHL team, right? They also do the same thing in juniors up in Canada.
Yeah.
So what Hockey Princess is talking about, it's a lot more. You have to find new families, number one. New families that can bring this person in and that are halfway close to the Fifth Third Arena. Okay? Because you're now dealing with downtown traffic.
Right.
And everything else. That becomes a big headache. I'm sure it'll be something that they will work on. As far as the Steel fans, yeah, that was my big thing, is there is nobody in their solid fan base right now that will continue. Most of their solid fan base are out in the western suburbs, and they're not making that drive. The other thing that I just thought of is I'm really curious to see how all of this goes together. The Blackhawks for the last couple of years have been very gifted by the NHL with a lot of weekend games. Now, if you're familiar with the UHSAL schedule, they play a good amount of weekend games.
They play exclusively weekends, I believe, with the exception of there's some like Wednesdays at 11, similar to what Rockford does, where they have like essentially like school matinee games where it's just students. I think they have a couple, or they had a couple out, maybe one out in Geneva, and then I think usually they have a matinee when the Steel end up playing the USN TDP out in Plymouth. But aside from that, it's exclusively weekends, so these teenagers can be in school the rest of the week.
Correct. So what happens during the season? Are you telling me you're going to have a Steel game and a Blackhawks game? Where do you plan to park all of these people? You've taken away the parking lots. Okay, I know you reached out to Powers, and Powers said,
"Thank you, Scott Powers, for at least answering my question."
and he mentioned a parking deck. Now, I don't know if that's the parking deck that's already there for Malcolm X College or not, but I'm sorry, a parking deck is a nightmare. Hockey Princess, you've been to the parking decks in Rockford. How long does it take you to get out of there?
A long time.
It's at least a half hour, 45 minutes just to get out of the parking lot before you go sit in the traffic. Okay, and that's a stadium that holds only 5,000. That is an unbelievable option, a terrible option. So, of course, Crusty Old Guy, when thinking about all of this, thinks of one thing.
Himself?
How does it affect Crusty Old Guy? Yes. And this, it's going to push parking out to where Krusty parks already. And Krusty's not very happy about that. So the parking situation is going to be a nightmare. We'll get a better feel on it and get back to your listeners when the season starts. I understand the open grass area. I still think they also want that silly pit that they show in every playoff game. So all the kids come together and have.
I think you got to start like being in the playoffs before you can get one of those.
Well, correct. But at some point in time, someday, some way, we'll be in the playoffs and it'll matter. And I'm telling you, a big pit of kids in Chicago probably is not going to go very well. At some point in time, something bad's going to happen. Just telling you that now. As far as the whole thing, they are taking over a huge portion of that area between expanding Fifth Third and now expanding the United Center area. They've basically said, we give us all of your money. The stuff at the Fifth Third looks really cool. They're going to have the Blackhawks Hall of Fame. A lot of great stuff. I worry about the parking, and the other big thing I worry about the Steel games, and this is a shout out to the Wirtz Corporation right now, but this is a UHAS, whatever
USHL.
That means $4 hot dogs, okay? $5 hot. If you guys come in there and you're going to bring the Steel in, and then you're going to charge basically the same prices you charge at the United Center, that's a shame on you. Okay? That is a complete shame on you. You are extremely limiting your fan base then. Okay? I think the Steel will draw well there. I think the kids wouldn't mind seeing kids play. But if you really stick it to them on the charges for what they're buying there, that's going to be a problem. So I'm holding out hope that that's not the case. That's the draw of the lower levels. Everything's cheaper. It's easier for people to bring their families and stuff like that. That's when we'll see. It's a huge chunk of land all taken over with no parking. I don't know where they're planning to put all of these people. Okay, because your Blackhawk draw still, I don't know, maybe 60% suburbs, 70% suburbs, and 30% city, I think would be a good number. The city folks have their transportation the way they've always had it. But now if you have no parking for that other 60%, I don't know what you're going to do. So we'll see what that looks like. But the little pictures of everything look beautiful. And the stadium will be state of the art. It also brings Krusty's dream maybe closer.
Of World Juniors?
To have the World Juniors here at some point in time.
Gosh, that would be great. That's
all Krusty wants. Krusty is willing to pay some good money if he can watch 3 hockey games a day for 2 weeks. That's what Krusty's looking for. That would be an incredible 2 weeks. So in this now, you've got enough rinks. You're definitely dialed in. Again, it will be, can you draw enough? And that's That's the tough one. That's why it's usually in Canada somewhere or someplace else, because they can draw. It's hard to push the World Juniors onto the Chicago market, but fingers crossed. All right, I've talked way too long about it, right?
Yeah, you can talk whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, that's about all I have, and we'll kind of know more when everything's all torn up and sheesh. Worry about that at the beginning of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I don't because I live down here, but you have to worry about it.
Yes, I have to worry about it, and I'll be there either way. So I'll have to. If I need to make adjustments, I'll make adjustments. But I'll figure out something. Krusty will figure out something. As far as Blackhawks, do we talk any free agency stuff or not yet?
We can talk lightly. We'll go kind of more in depth with it probably in a couple of weeks once it gets closer to free agency, but we can pull up just a small reminder for folks. Give me 1 second. Keep talking, Krusty.
Okay. Well, then I'll talk about the one thing that has been on most people's mind, and I've gotten conflicting reports on one Mitch Marner. I had one report.
He's going to be a duck. Quack, quack.
The Blackhawks are not interested. And then I've got, they're one of the 4 or 5 teams that are very interested. Again, Krusty will give his opinion again. If I'm able to get a player like Mitch Marner without giving up any assets, that's something that needs to be looked at. Okay. Granted, the starting point is probably 13 million. I'm in for that.
Do you know how much we have?
How much
right now?
A lot.
We have 29 million.
Yes, we have 29 million, and that might not even be with Shea's Weber money, who you can also automatically put to long-term.
All right, so we've got the biggest one, obviously. Mr. Ryan Donato becomes an unrestricted free agent come July 1. You've got Philip Kurashev as a restricted free agent, but is arbitration eligible come July 1. You have Wyatt Kaiser as a restricted free agent. You have Louis Crevier as a restricted free agent that is arbitration eligible. And your Arvid Soderblom is a restricted free agent who is arbitration eligible.
Ooh. Okay, well, Kurashev, I would assume, is gone.
Yes, because Blackhawk management just doesn't like him.
Yeah, I don't think they're all that happy with him.
I want him to get a fresh start. I've been saying since halfway through the season, I hope Philip Kurashev pulls a Dylan Strome and is just incredibly successful under healthy management. I would love to see him be in a position where he has the opportunity to succeed and is not thrown with so much inconsistency that he is only set up to fail.
Well, I can guarantee you that's not going to happen.
A girl can dream, Krusty. A girl can dream.
Philip Kurashev is no Dylan Strome. He will never be a Dylan Strome. Dylan Strome, even when he was with the Hawks, is a very talented hockey player. Philip Kurashev is that middle 6, bottom 6 guy who there's a lot of them in the league. Now, do I think he can play in this league? Yes. Would it be helpful under new circumstances? Yes. But his level isn't the same.
I'm saying from the, letting him go away for nothing and then, turn it around when he's in a more positive environment. I hope Philip Kurashev has the opportunity to do that, whether that's at the NHL level, the AHL level, going home to Switzerland, whatever. I just want him to be happier.
Yeah, and for me, Bloom needs to be signed, preferably to 3 years. I would throw some decent money at him. He's proven that he can probably be a backup. $3 million is not going to break you for 3 years. I do not want a situation where Drew needs to come up next year.
Cook.
I want him to cook one more year, and then we'll start to talk, because then we have a whole Spencer Knight issue to begin with, and how much money he is going to cost. And he won't be cheap.
No.
Because he's already being paid
too much,
almost like a number one. As far as Big Lou, as they like to call him, Big Lou's got to be re-signed. If you lose him to the fact that you send him to Rockford, then you lose him, but sign him. Everybody's liked his play.
I think he's a good. He's not a top 4 guy by any means, but I think he is an excellent guy to kind of fill the gap as the younger kids progress. Signing him ensures that you actually, Kyle, I'm looking at you, you are actually trying to develop these kids if you keep Krabye.
Yeah, and you need to develop, and you need to start keeping people around. You need to start to have a nucleus, and I think he'd be good. Kaiser, I know they're going to sign. There's no way they could be playing him as much as they have to just let him walk them. They have a lot of invested in Wyatt Kaiser. Now, I don't know if that is just to move him this year, and that's why he got so much ice time, or they really think something's there. I don't believe so. Just because I think defensively he's got too many flaws, and we have enough offensive defensemen, but I believe he will be signed, but he might be moved also. So, and Donato, I've gone on record as saying is I want him.
Give him all of the money. All of the money right now. Give him so much money. Now, I think, because this has been a hot topic with other Blackhawk podcasts as well, I don't care the dollar amount that you give Donato. Sure. I think my only concern is just not too much term, but I worry that because Donato's been bounced around kind of throughout the league, that's the one thing that he's looking for, is kind of prioritizing term over the dollar amount. And I think if it's too much term, you run into a problem. Not necessarily, you're not in a cap hell situation by any means, but I think you're running into a problem of just too many cooks in the kitchen if you give Ryan Donato too much term. But I'm so down for signing him.
Yeah, I think the term that everybody's looking at is 3 or 4 years. The 4 probably is a little long in the tooth, but again, Ryan Donato is a player that you could play on the fourth line. He is not stellar defensively, but he's pretty darn good. But as you start to teach everybody the right way to play, he's a very good example. He's a very good professional. So I am hoping he's signed. Again, with him, it always comes down to dollars. Meaning, if I get 6 years at $4 million, that's $24 million. So he'll take that over, a little bit more, but for less term. So I think it would be a tough sell for him to get anything more than 4 years. He's not good enough to demand a long-term contract.
No.
But he's in enough of a need to demand a good contract. So I think he wasn't blown away by the Hawks offer. So I think he's just going to wait and see. He'll see what July 1st brings.
Yeah.
And if it's close to the Blackhawks, I do believe he will come back here. So we'll see. And if you get a lot more money someplace else in a couple extra years, you've got to go, because he's 28. This is it. This is the one contract. This is the big one. So But I'd like to see him. I like the way he plays. I like his attitude. He is a pro.
Know right now in this current position, he's not at a spot where it's like, oh, we can't keep him because he's holding up like X person A, person B that's down in Rockford or in juniors. He's not holding anybody up by being there.
No, and that's another thing that's been talked a lot about. You're going to be slowing down. This is Ryan Donato. Okay. So I'm telling my prospects, you want his spot? Well, then you better play better than him. There's nobody that's going to be holding back. I can easily throw Ryan Donato on the fourth line his last 2 years. And whatever prospect will then play on the third or second. It's not that big of a deal. Yeah. I have the cap space to do this. So this thing of I need to protect spots for the kids, that's part of the culture change.
I mean,
there's no protecting spots. You take the spot. What?
It's not October yet. We haven't seen anything. So why is anybody talking about protecting? We haven't seen anybody yet for next year. You run training camp. You want the spot. You earn the spot.
Yes, there's no protecting anything. As I've stated the last 3 shows, probably, I'm done with the coddling. I'm done with the back. This is the NHL. You want the position, you go take it.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you don't take it, oh well, nobody's slowing you down. Nobody's taking your spot. Okay, you're not taking your spot. Accountability. Okay, I'm done with that.
Got anything else for the big club?
I don't think so.
We've got our final thing this evening. The thing that Krusty always thinks that I'll forget, but I can't. We've got Blackhawk lore.
Oh, are we not taking any questions? Did we not get any questions?
We don't have questions.
I thought we had a question.
No, we just had a comment.
No, I thought we had a question about the Olympics.
Oh, you want to jump into that?
Don't have to. All I'm saying is Krusty's prepared.
Oh, snap. If you're prepared for that question, the floor is yours, Krusty.
Oh, I'm not that prepared. But I thought we had a question. Do you want to save it for next week?
We're going to save it for the dog days.
Okay, we're going to save it for another time. But yes, I've done some research and I got the answer to that question also.
Okay.
Okay. Blackhawk lore.
Krusty, the floor is yours.
Oh, the floor is now.
The most important part of Blackhawk game, aside from the game itself.
Yes, the only time the crowd's really loud. Okay, the Blackhawk lore that Hockey Princess is talking about is the screaming and yelling that goes on during the national anthem, and why and how. Okay, I did a little bit of research. Krusty's memory.
Lived it.
Yes, Krusty lived it, but back when Krusty was starting to go, it was already there. So I did put feelers.
Wow, something that predates Krusty.
That means it's really old, baby. So basically, what I got was number one. The answers that I received was the 1985. Oh, I forgot my other prop. I had another prop for this. I'd have to go into one of the rooms in the house and find the prop. So I won't be able to find it. Maybe I will for next show to show people the shirt. But the shirt just says, it's got a 4-letter word, begins with F. And then it's got a bottom word that says Edmonton.
Yes, I'm a big fan of this shirt.
So basically, from what I've gathered, is in the 1985, I think it was the Western Conference semifinals, they were playing Edmonton, game 3, and is when it started with the screaming and yelling from the beginning of the anthem as a way to intimidate the Edmonton Oilers and give the Blackhawks that incredible home ice advantage. With that, you have to understand that this started at the old place, the stadium. The stadium, you had the ability to be just on top of the players. It was an intimidating building, just the way it was set up, which most barns were in that day. But I've been told that's when it started. The other answers I got was the Gulf War, the 91 All-Star game. And that was basically where some other people who weren't hockey people started to notice it. Because I didn't go to the All-Star game, but I was a season ticket holder during that era, and we were yelling the year before through the whole anthem. That was already happening. That was just the loudest and just the craziest with the sparklers, the signs, and the flags that everybody remembers. And, you know, I will tell the story of Crusty Old Guy's got a lot of weird things he believes in. And one of those back then was, you know, the All-Star game isn't a real hockey game. So Crusty Old Guy gave away his All-Star game tickets and did not go to the All-Star game. Probably one of Krusty's biggest regrets as a hockey fan. But it started before then. And it just took off. It was a way to start intimidating other teams before the game even started. And it became a huge thing for a long, long time. As you are well aware of, it did end. Because I remember telling you the stories of just wait someday. But we used to yell through the whole anthem. And as we looked around at nobody at the United Center going, when? Who yelled? Well, it did come back, as everybody knows. But that's the lore that I've heard, is it started in the 85 playoffs against Edmonton. The reason for the FU Edmonton shirt is 85 was the beginning of the Gretzky run. And the Hawks had some good teams in the late 80s and the early 90s, but especially the late 80s, just couldn't get past Edmonton. It was basically like the New York, for anybody who followed basketball way back when, the New York Knicks could never get past the Chicago Bulls. They always had good teams, but never good enough. That's what the Hawks were. So that is the lore behind the anthem. And then it is just stuck. Wayne Mesmer was the original anthem singer back then.
We got to see him.
Yes, we did get to see Wayne, because Wayne and the Hawks don't get along, because Wayne, during the Dark Ages, became an owner of the Wolves and took a lot of fans, because the Hawks were so bad, to the Wolves. So they've never gotten along well. And poor Wayne was, I believe, stabbed or shot in the neck right in the parking lot of where another more hockey Blackhawk lore of where you ate. A couple days ago, I took Hockey Princess to the Hawkeye Bar and Grill. I thought
you were going to say the parking lot where we almost got shot at.
No, that could be a story for another time. Oh, that's a really good story. But
I know.
We'll tell that one later. The Hawkeyes Bar and Grill was a big place back in the late 80s and the 90s, of the spot to go after the game, because a lot of players would hang out there also afterwards, back when players and fan could mingle. Before cell phones and, you were able to just all of a sudden click on and, all of a sudden videotape this guy drunk. So now you get to post it. Now he looks like a fool. A lot of the players now, they're going to a VIP section at a pub just for that reason. So that's the other talk about Hawkeyes, which is a little added bonus for you on the Blackhawk lore. But that's basically when it started. It's continued. It's a big selling point of the Blackhawks. It is probably one of the top 3 things everybody talks about.
Whether you love it or you hate it.
It becomes very annoying to a crusty old guy because everybody screams and yells, and then everybody sits down and shuts up for most of the rest of the game.
Can we add?
Yes, I can add, subtract, I can divide. Sometimes I can even multiply.
This isn't a thing that most people do, but the lore of, after the anthem, Krusty and I have a tradition of the lore of the whoop, whoop, whoop.
I don't know. See, this is where I, if I could ask Scott Ryan, who's gone to a better place, who had tickets with me way back then, I don't know exactly when that started or how that started after the anthem, but it was very relevant in the 90s. To once the anthem finished, we go, woo, 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 which we've continued. We still do it every game. My woman still refuses to do it. She acts like she's going to and just teases me, but that's neither here. Occasionally we've gotten to, I don't know how that exactly happened.
But it did.
It did. I don't know if it was an Arsenio Hall thing, because that's what he did for his show. I don't know when it happened, but it became a big part of right after the anthem. I wish somebody with a better memory than me could tell me when we started it, but it was something that since I had my tickets in 1990, we did. It was an added part of the anthem. And the only other weird thing with the anthem is during some of the time it was, is it disrespectful? Shouldn't it be more of a somber thing? I can only talk to me. I had talked to veterans. There was 2 or 3 who, were able to make it back from Vietnam, posed the question to them. All of the people that I talked to, all veterans who I consider, they've got a little bit more in this patriotic skin in the game than I do.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done things that I haven't for this. And none of them had any form of problem with it. So that gave all of us the thought processes we weren't being disrespectful. It changed a little bit on the road because it used to be done on the road, and then other buildings really started to have a problem with it. And I kind of understood where they were coming from. You've got your own way that you handle the anthem, and now this is being brought in and they saw it as disrespectful. So it kind of stopped on the road as a show of respect to other fan bases, and if they didn't find it respectful, which was nice. I can still remember being in Denver when we were screaming and yelling, and everybody on the Hawks just looked back at us, shook their heads. But I don't consider it as disrespectful at all. It's a way to celebrate. It's a way to celebrate the country. So it's not going away. I can tell you that.
Absolutely not.
So did I do okay with the lore?
You did great with the lore.
Thank you. So if anybody knows a different start date or anything,
we've got 85 game 3.
85 game 3 against Edmonton is what I was told.
Yeah.
Yes. And hopefully it never goes away again.
True that.
I will say,
yeah,
because I'm crusty and I'm old, it still just wigs me out when everybody does the big Jim Point thing.
I hate that so much.
I don't hate it because I'm trying to understand that everybody's got a different way that they enjoy this, and it doesn't have to be my way. So if you guys are doing that, continue to do it as long as you get involved. Sorry, I don't know why I threw that in, but it was the last speed bump I wanted to throw out there because I wanted to make sure we can get to 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Jesus. All right, you got anything else for our?
I got plenty, but we'll save it for next week.
Okay. Well, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us for 2 years. This is wild. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, YouTube, however you watch or listen to us on a weekly basis. If you're new, we drop episodes every Thursday, usually. This one's a little bit late, but I just wanted to do it on our actual anniversary 2 years ago today. That is all, and we will talk at you guys next week.